with that as well.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Virtual College Exploration for All Ohio Students, which is sponsored by the Ohio Association for College Admission Counseling and StriveScan. Thank you for joining us today. There's a few housekeeping announcements before we get started. First, you can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and your microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of the many sessions happening, so be sure to check out the full schedule at oacac.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week at the same website, oacac.org. And now I'd like to turn it over to our presenters.
Hello, my name is Melissa. I am an admissions counselor at the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design. I'm gonna pull up my screen right now to share with you my presentation. Cool. So welcome again. You can ask questions at any time during this presentation. Just go to the bottom right of your screen to the Q&A, and my awesome colleague Tyler will help you out and answer that for you. Like I said, I am from the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design, otherwise known as MIAD. This presentation is going to cover our school, our programs, our offerings, the city of Milwaukee, and the many career opportunities out there within the art and design fields. So I'd like to start by just telling you a little bit about myself. I graduated with a BFA in studio art with a focus in fiber arts in 2018. I also got a minor in art history. I still practice fibers along with curating and programming around Milwaukee. I write and perform poetry, and I do a lot of zine making. So zines, I've realized not everybody knows what zines are. So I've been explaining to some classes. Are kind of these just little like self-published works of art. They're usually have writing, or you can include a lot of different pieces of your art in them. You can make them handmade digitally. So they're really cool. I encourage you to check that out if you're interested in collage or mixed media or writing. A little bit about quarantine for me. On the left is my cat Belle. We celebrated her 5-year adoption anniversary in June. And then on the right is our newest addition to the house, Nellie. She's my roommate's puppy. She's a miniature pincher. I just like to share this because I know this is weird. All this virtual stuff, being at home is weird, but one of the plus sides personally for me has been pets and getting to work from home and have some animals around me. So maybe that's a plus side for you as well. Welcome to MIAD. MIAD is Wisconsin's only fully accredited private nonprofit college of art and design. We offer 4-year programs which will earn you a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. We are located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is in the Midwest. We're about an hour and a half away from Madison or Chicago, 5.5-hour drive to Minneapolis or Detroit. We're a medium-sized city, about 24th largest in the nation. But the location that we're at, we're close to all these other major cultural hubs. The fact that we're a cultural hub in itself, and the fact that we're smaller and we have a cheaper cost of living than a lot of bigger cities like Chicago or LA or New York, makes it a really great spot to get started as a creative. So this may be what you think of when you think of Wisconsin. You're not completely wrong, to be honest. It gets really cold in the winter. We eat a lot of cheese. But this is the city of Milwaukee itself. I think it's beautiful. I love it here. 2 of my favorite things are, first, the music. We have really large acts that come in, acts of all different sizes, lots of local talent. And I also love the nature. There's nature, of course, on the outskirts of the city, but there's a lot right within the city itself. So there are 140 parks, 9 beaches, and 3 rivers, all within the city itself. One of those rivers is the Milwaukee River, which MIAD is located on. So if you look to the right in this image, that's actually MIAD right there. We are known as the City of Festivals. So we have Summerfest, which is the largest music festival in the world. These are both images of Summerfest grounds. The image on the left is actually really close to Myatt. It's within walking distance, and on the right is Lake Michigan. But when Summerfest isn't happening, there's always something happening in the summer. We're savoring that good weather. So we have a lot of other fests happening on Summerfest grounds, like Pride Fest, Mexican Fiesta, Festa Italiana, and then stuff all over the city, which is something I really love about summers in particular in Milwaukee. We also have a really great DIY culture. So what I mean by that is there are a lot of artists and makers who are really just getting out there and starting their own events and networking and selling their work. So we have makers markets, a zine fest, we have FemFest, which features femme and non-binary artists that was actually started by a Myatt student, and it's still going on today, I think 5 years later. So this is just all going to say it's really easy for you to get involved in the community, in the arts community in particular, to meet other artists, network, and to sell your own work. This is the Milwaukee Art Museum. It's definitely the most recognizable building in the city of Milwaukee itself. It was in the other image of the Summerfest grounds. It's right over there on Lake Michigan. Those wings actually open and shut twice a day. And this is just a gorgeous space. They have great collection of contemporary and of classical pieces. You get free membership here as a student at Myatt, so you can go anytime you want. It's a great place to get inspired. I worked there for a while, and I really never got sick of going there. So the third ward is the area of Milwaukee in which Myatt is located. We are downtown. We're full of refurbished historical buildings. There are lots of restaurants, shops, design firms. It's really known as the arts and cultural district, so it's a great place to call home. Okay, so I always get mixed reactions with this slide when I present live in classrooms. When I was going to go to college, I was really nervous about dorms. That was kind of my biggest concern, was like communal bathrooms where you had to leave your dorm and go down the hallway and share in these tiny rooms, because I grew up in a college town and I did camp at the college, and that's what you had to do there. Apparently all dorms are pretty much renovated now, so no one's really worried about that. But if you were worried for some reason, you don't have to. We have what's called our 252 Myatt student apartments. We don't call them dorms because they truly are not dorms. They're apartments, nicer than my own, honestly. They're fully furnished. They include everything you see listed here. The setup is going to be a communal living room and kitchen. There are 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. One of those bedrooms is a double with 2 people. If you look out the window there, that's actually Myatt right across the street. And then we have a triple, so thinking about bunking, lofting beds. Every student's getting their bed, their desk, and a little dresser. They're totally customizable. You still have RAs, there are communal spaces, communal activities. So I just hear great things from students about getting to live here and how it helps them get acclimated to the community. This is going to be right outside of 252. So on the first floor is Blick Art Materials. Well, you'll get a lot of supplies. Next door is Wonder State Coffee, which was named the most beautiful coffee shop in Wisconsin. And then across the street is Catalina Square, an urban park. We have a lot of those all over the city, and you'll see that pop up again in the presentation. So who is Myatt? We're always asking who is Myatt, not what is Myatt, because we are all about our community. We have a small community of 937 students. We went up from 850 last year, so we're continuing to grow. Our ratio there, that's talking about students to professor in any given studio art course. So you'll have about 16 students per 1 professor, so you have a lot of one-on-one time to ask questions. And then the bottom number is a little bit arbitrary, but we are a single building campus. So our cafeteria, office spaces, galleries, that's all within the building itself. But this number is subtracting everything except for spaces where you're making and you're being creative, studios, labs. So we're actually second leading for creative square footage per student in the nation. That 16-to-1 ratio I mentioned means that you're on a first name basis with your professors. They are all still creatives within their field, designers, artists, and so they're really your peers, you're networking while you're in school. So all that space is going towards many different places to get things done. We have a 20,000 square foot wood shop. You will get in here your first year, and there are always lab techs in here to help you out. We have an open lab featuring things like a laser cutter, Wacom tablets, 3D printers. Connected is a textiles lab. These are both spaces you can access no matter what year you are, what major. And then an innovation center, which is fairly new. It's a little over a year old now, but they are also featuring new and emerging technologies such as VR and lots of programming to do with entrepreneurship. We have fine art facilities, such as one of the largest print labs in the Midwest, a sculpture lab, a foundry where you can actually cast metal, professional grade lighting studios, and dark room, lots of photographic facilities, and then galleries which are showing not only student work, but work from visiting artists from all over, national, international artists. There's a faculty and staff show coming up, which is going to be really cool. So I highly encourage you to check out our MyEd facilities tour, which is on our MyEd admissions Vimeo page. That was just a really brief overview of our facilities, but this video will show you a lot more of them and what they're used for. So every student, when you're coming to MyEd, is going to go through the first year experience, your first year. Art schools usually have what they call a foundations year. We're kind of learning the basics of everything, but we call ours an experience because that's really what it is. You are getting acclimated to a creative community. You're learning to think about not just art, not just design, but creative thinking as a whole. So that means you're trying everything. I mentioned you're going to get into the wood shop, you're doing 2D, 3D, 4D, regardless of your intended major, so that you're building the skills you need for your major, but also just more skills to be a well-rounded creative. You don't really get into your major until your second year, so this is a really great year for you to explore, build your skills, maybe find something you never tried before and realize that that's something you want to pursue. These are just some examples of artwork coming out of the first year experience. So you can see there's a wide array of things you're trying out in different areas you can focus in on. So we have 5 programs at MyEd. As I mentioned, they're all BFA earning. We don't have any master's degrees, which we see as a positive thing because it means you're not competing for space or attention with grad students. So the first major I'm going to touch on is new studio practice. This is what you're usually going to hear called a fine art or studio art major. It is the same exact thing. Something that's unique about our program is it's interdisciplinary. So that means it's all disciplines or mediums combined into one major, just like the real world. It doesn't mean that you can't have a focus. I know plenty of students who go through this and come out of it and still identify as just a painter or a photographer or strictly one thing, but it also means you never have to choose. So we're teaching students traditional ideas and techniques in this major, but we're pushing them to make their art live within the contemporary realm. And that means that we're completely concept-based here. We are challenging students to do a lot of research and thinking and really consider the why of their artwork. Why are you making this? Why is it important? What's your unique voice? Critiques are in every major, of course, but again, in this major, it's going to be interdisciplinary. So you're not only getting feedback from people based on their unique life experience, but also based on how they might see making art a little bit differently than you because they're using a different medium. Every major, again, is also getting a studio space for at least their junior and senior years, usually more than that. So this is an example for new studio practice. Great place to just keep all your work, all your things. You'll find lugging it around is really exhausting, but also to be around other creatives and get their feedback while you're working. So this is a really great example of new studio practice. Is it an installation, a video? Is it sculpture? Is it art? Is it design? It's kind of all of those things. And again, that's really what we're thinking about in new studio practice. And this major actually double majored in new studio practice and in industrial design. So one of the alums from this program is Ariana Faith. Ariana is a really brilliant painter. She graduated in 2017 and she applied right away for what's called the Maryknoll Fellowship. So fellowships are different kind of awards you can apply for. You apply lots of artwork usually and writing to it, and then you can earn money to keep up your practice. So whether that be fine art, videos, whether that be writing. So she applied and she won right away her first attempt, and she won in the Emerging Artist recipient category. And what that means is she won $10,000 and a show and, you know, lots of networking and attention and publicity. So she didn't have to work full time. You know, $10,000 is a lot of money, but it's not enough to live off of. But it helped her not have to have a full-time job and really focus on painting and her painting career. And then the next year she applied for another fellowship. She won it. She won $15,000. And she really just kind of skyrocketed into the fine art community. So what I love about her work is it's really a good example of that traditional versus contemporary. She's really inspired by Baroque paintings and patterns, but she's bringing them into the contemporary realm by really focusing on these intimate relationships she has with the people around her, mostly with her friends. I know a lot of people in these paintings, which is cool. And these paintings are huge. They're like 6 feet tall, so they're really amazing when you see them. So I just think Ariana is a really great example of kind of that traditional, like, fine artist, working freelance artist that you think of career path. Izzy Waite, on the other hand, was also a new studio practice. She's a good example of interdisciplinary. So on the left, that piece is kind of a painting, a sculpture, and installation. And while she was in school, she interned at the David Barnett Gallery in downtown Milwaukee. And then right after graduating, she got hired full-time to be their social media and website manager. Outside of that, she started an art collective with some friends of hers called Pink Salt. So they do a lot of zine making, sales, events. And then a year ago, she moved to London and she's pursuing a master's degree in curating. Next major I'm going to cover is illustration. Illustration is definitely our most popular major at MyEd. It's all about telling a story. So that can be done in a variety of different ways. One way is thinking more design oriented. So posters, print materials, textile designs. Animation is, of course, a big way you could tell a story. We do not have an animation major at MyEd, but we have a minor called digital media production. And through that minor, you'll learn all about storyboarding, animation, 4D, and be prepared to be an animator. We do many professional collaborations in our classes at MyEd. One in particular in illustration is our Collectivo Cup project. So Collectivo is a really large coffee company, ran out of Milwaukee. There are locations all over Milwaukee. There's one in Chicago and Madison now. And they come into an illustration class every year. They give the colors for the year that they're looking for, kind of the mood they're going for, and then all the students will make a cup design, and they end up choosing 4 of those. They print 25,000 of each, and they pay each of those students. So it's a great opportunity, even if you're not chosen, to just get that experience with working with a client. So the cup that is the second from the left is the next alums, Gabriela Riveros. She is an awesome illustrator. She interned at Kohl's. The Kohl's headquarters is right outside of Milwaukee, so we have a lot of students interning there and alum working there. So she interned there, and then she got hired full-time to be an assistant designer. She does a lot of textile designs for them. So in the middle, you'll see different clothes that are being printed at Kohl's and sold. She'll do like towel designs, all sorts of things like that. But she also does a lot of freelance stuff. So on the left is her design for the Milwaukee Film Festival back in 2016. Every year for I think the past 5 or 6 years, it's always been a MyEd alum who's getting hired to do the designs for the Film Fest. And that's a really big event in Milwaukee, so it's awesome exposure. Besides that, she does a lot of just different designs randomly. So Miller Lite, she did a partnership with them. She made this poster, and she was actually in this really cool video with them where she got to meet a reggaeton artist and like DJ, and it was really cool, like multidisciplinary thing. On the bottom right is cover art for a single by a musician who is from Milwaukee but has moved to Atlanta. And then she also started Luna with some other Milwaukee creatives, which is an arts collective for Latina artists. They do shows and all sorts of really cool stuff. On the flip side, a really different direction for an illustrator, we have Maddie Dahl. She minored in science, and she ended up going into scientific illustration. So she made this as her senior thesis project, did all the research, the illustrations, the sculptures. She got the attention of the Milwaukee Public Museum and worked there for a year, and now she works at Blue Rhino Studio in Minneapolis as an exhibits artist. So Blue Rhino Studio is a company that's getting hired by all these museums all over the country, and they're making these huge paintings you see in museums. They're making the sculptures of the different animals. So this is a really cool career path that I think is something you may not have ever thought of, but careers in museums in particular for artists are really available and widely there. Okay, so next major is communication design, another major called something a little bit different, but this is what you're usually going to hear called graphic design. Same thing, we like to focus on not just the communication, or excuse me, not just the graphic design portion of it on the computer, but how you're communicating an idea. So we're really creating a conversation, we're bringing the work off the computer, really examining it. Typography is a part of that, thinking about fonts, typefaces, creating your own even, as you can see the student on the right is doing. Highly encourage you to take a typography course if you're able to, if you are going into a creative field, because it's really important for all creatives. Thinking about branding, again, not just making something on the computer, but what would it look like if you designed a whole vehicle, a space, the overall look and feel of a product and an identity. Taking those package designs off, testing them out, learning how to photograph them. The psychology of those package designs. So this is a project they do every year in communication design where all the students get the same exact product, but they're challenged to make different package designs based on the audience who will be, they'll be marketing to. So how does that affect how you're designing it? And again, learning how to make spaces, learning how to put it all together, really learning how to market and identify a brand. This is a great project done by all students at MyAd. We have a student model, photographer, someone who did the typography, the design, and then the art director. So an art director is someone who comes up with the idea, guides everybody, and sees a whole project come together. And that's a really popular career path for communication design majors. An alum from this program who I think is awesome is Nate Piper. He does really cool designs such as you see here, lots of freelance stuff, but actually also worked at the Milwaukee Art Museum. Right after graduating, he did this huge rebranding for them, led it, and they still use all of these different icons he made and designs, and they're complimented all the time. He then went to grad school at Yale for fine art, and now he calls himself an alphabet artist. So it's cool because he's really in between that art and design thinking and a really unique artist in that way. And then we have Xavier Ruffin. Xavier is another alum who worked at Kohl's, but he was getting tons of freelance projects. So he decided after a while he was just going to start his own business. He got a business minor as well, so he was prepared for that. He moved out to LA and started Dopamine Productions, and now he's doing freelance stuff for major artists, for TV networks, anything you can think of. FX is a huge client of his, and he actually led this day and night campaign for the show Atlanta. If you've seen this, that was his doing. All right, then we have two 3D design majors. The first is product design. This was formerly known as industrial design, but we changed the name about a year ago to better reflect the major because it's not all just industrial products, but it's all products. So whether that be industrial, kitchen goods, medical supplies, soft goods, covers a wide array of things. Product design is kind of a tricky major to explain sometimes because it covers so many things. It's all products. So one example I like to give of if this might be for you is if you've ever used a pair of scissors and you thought they're really uncomfortable, I really think that I could make a better version of these, then this might be for you. We are challenging students to be really curious about the things that they're using in their everyday life and critical of those things, thinking about, again, making them better and maybe making them in a whole new way they've never seen it made before. And then being empathetic because you're trying to help people through these designs. You are going to be drawing a ton in this major. You're going to be sculpting. You're going to be doing digital renderings. It's all about usability though. So this is not an engineer of something. You don't need to know how an engine's going to work or how it's going to be manufactured, but you're rather focusing on the usability, the look and the feel of how all the things around you work. A good example of the empathy I mentioned is Zeke Johnson. This is his senior thesis project. He ended up making a seatbelt. I believe he got funding or some kind of grant from a company to do this, but he ended up making a seatbelt with his grandma in mind. So his grandma has bad dexterity in her fingers. My grandma's the same way. This would be great for her. So what he did was design this, which is magnetic. So you don't have to use your fingers even. You can just use the palms of your hands, put them together, pull the seatbelt over, and then it's a magnet, so it just clicks automatically. So he ended up getting hired by a company and then moving out to California, I believe. On the flip side, thinking about industrial, we have Ben McGinley. He always loved Harley. The Harley headquarters are in Milwaukee. And so for his senior thesis, he came up with the idea of the first electric motorcycle. He got hired by Harley and he's been working on this for 10 years. And last year, recently, I think it just rolled out. So on their website, the front homepage used to be the all-new Livewire, which was their first electric motorcycle. Again, he's not coming up with how's that going to work, how does an electric engine work, but he's kind of leading the team thinking about how it looks and how it feels. Last major for you is interior architecture and design. This is a major all about creating environments. So if you want to be an architect and learn how to make sound buildings, this isn't necessarily for you. Instead, we're thinking about spaces. So we're thinking about 3 scales in this major. The first is going to be subhuman, which is furniture. We have a furniture design minor. If you really love that aspect of it, you really love just making the furniture itself, but also thinking about how furniture is set up in a room. Think about if you've been to a restaurant and how the furniture is set up to guide you to the restroom. We're then thinking about the human scale. So how do you move through a space? How are the different rooms set up in a space as you enter to go with the function of that building? And then the scale of the building in comparison to the environment it's in. A building that is in an urban setting is going to be designed much differently than one that is in a rural setting. So the shelter project is the very first project that students in this major will do when they get into the major their sophomore year. They're given cardboard and all sorts of supplies, and they're challenged to make a small shelter that will live in Catalina Square, the park I showed you, for a night. So it becomes kind of this big cookout block party. Lots of people stop by to see what's going on. They test them all out. It's a really cool project. It's kind of focusing on that last scale I mentioned. Paige Lumley also focused on that scale of the building and the environment it's in. So she designed this landscape hotel as her senior thesis project. She put this hotel in this beautiful landscape you can see on the top left. She's thinking about the layout a little bit, but again, she's not coming up with how you're going to architecturally make this building, but rather how it's spread out, how the windows are wall to wall so you can look outside, how the colors are matching the beautiful nature outside. So she got the attention of Cadillac Architecture with this project, and then she got hired there right away. It's a design firm in Chicago. Kyle Diener is a cool example of the layout of spaces, how you move through them. So he's the senior coordinator for store planning and design with Calvin Klein, and he designs storefronts like these where you are thinking about like what are the levels that things are set at, how are things lit, how is the furniture set up in a store when you're going through it to guide you through the store and to make things look appealing, which is really cool. All right. Almost done. So a BFA degree is a 3rd credits of liberal studies. When I say liberal studies, I mean science, writing, art history, humanities. Great news is if you hate math, that is not included in liberal studies. But these are just really great ways to bridge between your disciplines to really make you a well-rounded creative. I think there's misconceptions about artists that there's art all the time, but you have to know about the world around you to be the best creative you can be, and that's where these come in. We have a lot of minors I've been mentioning, furniture design, book arts, many more. I mentioned science for scientific illustration. These are all just really great ways to hone in on a niche in your field. We do partner with Marquette University, which is a very large prestigious school down the road from us. Through them, you can take minors such as business, marketing. You can take up to 6 credits per semester there for no extra cost on your tuition. One example I like to give of how students will use that is with a foreign language if you want to continue learning that after high school. But I also just had a student who actually auditioned for a chorus at Marquette and got into that, which is really cool. Additionally, you can use their gym facilities for a small fee. You can take part in their intramural sports, and you can use their health services. So everything we're doing at MyAd is to get you the career of your dreams. That means we're always bringing in professionals to see your work as much as possible, and we're trying to get you out there to network. And this is a short list of gallery spaces within Milwaukee, which shows you there's a lot of opportunities for fine arts students. Transcript from your school. You can include an essay, ACT, SAT scores, or recommendation letter required to do so. Per year, I know that's a big number, it's scary. I don't even like to say it out loud. However, please know that 100% of our full-time students do receive aid from the school that comes in the form of a merit-based scholarship. So when you apply for MyAd, you're automatically applying for that scholarship, and it's based 50-50 on the strength of your portfolio and your GPA. So keep your GPA up, make sure you're working on your portfolio, and then always apply for FAFSA no matter where you're going to school. Make sure you apply for FAFSA to get aid from the government. Preparing for your portfolio can look like a number of different things. Draw from observation. We always like to see 2 or 3 pieces from observation. That means not from a photograph, that you're drawing things in front of you in your portfolio. You can get inspired by local museums and galleries. One cool thing about COVID, if there's any, is that now there are a lot of shows at really prestigious galleries all over the world that are online you can check out. Get involved with art organizations if you're able to. Connect with me, connect with any admissions counselor at any school that you're wanting to apply to. That's really the biggest advice I can give on a portfolio. And then you could also attend a pre-college. So pre-college are in the summer, they're about 1 or 2 weeks long, and they're really cool opportunities for you to get what I like to call trial run at art school. So you can see if that's for you. If you like making stuff intensely all day, you can build your portfolio, get a taste of a school, and even earn credit. So this costs money, but there are scholarships available. If you're interested, let us know and we'll get you that information. We also have some virtual portfolio development presentations happening online, so you can register for that at our admissions page. And there are national portfolio days, so these are really awesome opportunities for you to connect with college reps from all over, get feedback based on their individual schools. These are also free. You can sign up online. I can't remember when the Ohio one is, but I think it's one of the later ones in November, maybe early December. And then we have more events, we have more information and Q&A sessions, so basically kind of what you're doing right now. We'll be having virtual tours as well. Again, free events, you can register at our admissions page. And that's all I got for you. So thank you for your time. I'm gonna just leave this up for a second. So if you want my email, you're free to contact me. You can also reach out to us on our social media, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. On both of those, we have what's called a campsite, which is basically like a link tree. And on that, you can find tons of links to schedule portfolio reviews, register for events, and all that kind of thing. Cool. Let's see, no questions. It looks like Tyler is taking care of that. Feel free, if you have questions, drop them. I can answer them live.
Last call for any questions that we have. Okay, with all of that said, I want to thank all of you for joining us today for the presentation. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback that you are able to provide. Also, again, just a reminder, this is one of the many sessions being hosted, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions at oacac.org. In about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all of the other session recordings at oacac.org. Thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of your day.